collusion. There's also documents that the Malmstrom Air Force Base UFO officer, again, this is Lieutenant Colonel Chase, lied to Project Blue Book in writing, and I have those documents. So to me, I've got good evidence where the Air Force not only lied to the Condon investigators, but also to their own offices within the Air Force.
What is your opinion of the Roswell crash of 1947, sir?
I think it's a very significant and true case. There have been, by my count, something like 300 witnesses that have come forward telling various aspects of the Roswell crash. And this is very well documented. I'll recommend a book by Donald Schmidt and sorry, I can't remember his co-author, but it's called Witness to Roswell, I think. It's called Witness to Roswell. But yes, I certainly believe this is a valid case.
You know, another U.S. Air Force officer, Charles Hull, has come out several years ago talking about the grays that he himself took to Las Vegas, that that he was part of an area where these crafts would land and use Earth as a rest stop. And I was wondering if you had any opinion on what Charles Hull has been talking about, the fact that he interacted with these extraterrestrials, that they in fact do leave the restricted areas in Nevada and go into Las Vegas.
Well, I'm not going to comment specifically about that because I haven't really looked into Mr. Hull's evidence.
Okay.
What I will say, however, is when I started investigating these cases, I was very skeptical about some of the things I heard. But as the years have gone on and other things have come to light, I don't dismiss any of the statements by some of these witnesses out of hand. Mm-hmm. That doesn't mean I believe them. It means I simply don't dismiss them out of hand, and because this is so complex, the phenomenon is so complex that it depends on what kind of proof you'd need or what you might accept. So I'm not going to say one way or the other whether I believe Mr. Hull is correct.
With all the UFO sightings that are being reported these days, Peter Davenport at the Center for UFO does a great job in archiving these events worldwide. Nick Pope does a great job in the United Kingdom. And governments around the world are releasing UFO files. Why do you think the U.S. government has not made these files public yet?
Well, they've already gone on record as saying, what you read earlier, that there's nothing of significance to the UFO phenomenon. In fact, recently, President Obama had allowed people to ask him questions about anything. And as you probably know, Stephen Bassett wrote an inquiry to the Office of the President, asking them to release information about the UFO phenomenon. We got a response back from the Office of Science and Technology, which is right under the office within the Office of the President, stating again the same thing. We don't think we have been visited by extraterrestrial beings. There's no evidence to that, and case closed. So that's the position of the United States government. Other governments now are more open to this question, specifically Argentina, Peru. As you know, Great Britain has released many of their files. However, recently they said, well, we withheld some that we should have released, and so they've got more files. So, but as far as the U.S. government, they are, since 1969, have been mum on the question and are not releasing any related files to UFOs.
Is it possible that the files that are being released by governments around the world are bogus, that they are just releasing these files in order to appease the public, that the real files are being withheld?
Oh, I absolutely concur with that. Yeah, I think most of the files that are being released by governments are, what I like to call lights in the sky stories. But the real good cases where there have been thorough investigations, witness testimonies, and evidence, hard evidence, those are most likely being held. And again, not necessarily by the governments, but by these agents within the governments that are part of this international cabal.
As a former member of the United States Air Force, the stories that go along with UFO sightings where people are visited by men in black, what's your opinion?
I've heard these stories, in fact, from other witnesses that now these so-called men in black, some of the witnesses claim that these were not humans, that they were hybrids or extraterrestrials dressed in black. But certainly there are agents, again, working for the cabal, that one of their tasks is certainly to keep witnesses quiet or to collect information from witnesses. You mentioned the Roswell story. Many of those witnesses were threatened with their lives, the lives of their offspring, etc., at the time. So there are certainly people, you can call them men in black if you like, that are working for the cabal, whose job it is to discredit witnesses, to interrogate witnesses, and possibly even threaten them, or worse.
Why did the government stop Project Blue Book?
Well, the statement issued in 1969 by the Air Force says that there was no reason to have a public reporting of the UFO phenomenon because the Air Force was no longer going to investigate UFO cases. And that itself is a lie, because the Air Force continued to investigate cases after 1969. We know that. There was a 1975 case at Malmstrom Air Force Base again. UFOs affected nuclear weapons, which was investigated by the Air Force, and there have been many others.
All right, please stand by. Robert, you and I have to take our final break for this hour. Exo Nation, Robert Salas is our very special guest this hour. www.spiralgalaxy.com. That's www.spiralgalaxy.com, and Robert is the author of Unidentified The UFO Phenomenon, How World Governments Have Conspired to Conceal Humanity's Biggest Secret. And Robert and I will be back on the other side of this commercial break as we wrap up this hour here in the X Zone from our broadcast center in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. Don't go away.
The following program may contain coarse language, violence, nudity, mature subject matter, or scenes which may not be suitable for all viewers. Viewer discretion is advised.
This is the X Zone Broadcast Network, broadcasting worldwide on broadcast affiliates and satellite program providers, including CNN Broadcast Network, Sirius Satellite Network, Star Media, Good News Radio Network, Angel Broadcast Network, Wiki Broadcast Network, and WPBN TV. For more information on the X Zone Broadcast Network, visit us at www.xzbn.net.
Robert Salas is my guest this hour. Exonation, he's the author of Unidentified The UFO Phenomenon, How World Governments Have Conspired to Conceal Humanity's Biggest Secret, www.spiralgalaxy.org is the website. And Robert, thank you so much for coming on the show. It's been a great pleasure having you on. I read your book. I love it. And I've been telling my listening audience for 23 years that I want to believe. And thanks to your book, I'm one step closer.
That's good to hear, Rob. Thank you.
You, Steve Bassett, and so many others are getting the message out there. You're having these press conferences. You're going to the press club in Washington. Steve is doing a great job on his project disclosure. How frustrating is it for you when you get the world's media right there in front of you and they still don't believe?
Well, I'm not sure I would agree with that. I've spoken to a lot of media people that have, are on TV all the time, privately, that tell me that they do believe. But the issue goes higher. I'll give you an example. I was interviewed by, Channel 7 ABC commentator. Anyway, for his special on UFOs, and they took me to Dallas, flew me to Dallas. Was there for 3 days. They interviewed me. Said I had a great story. They were going to feature my story on their TV program. And a week before it was to air, I get a call saying that they couldn't put it on. And they didn't give me a reason. But again, I think the powers above them stifled the show, or at least my part of it.
Unreal. Simply unreal. By the way, the book that was co-written with Mr. Schmidt was by Thomas Carey.
Yes, thank you for that.
You're welcome.
I should have remembered Thomas Carey.
What is your message to the worldwide listening audience of the X Zone tonight, sir? What would you like them to? What would you like to leave them?
Really, what I'd like to tell your audience is to educate themselves on this phenomenon. There are plenty of good books and incidents that are well documented, well supported by witnesses, and I would like to at least have, especially the non-believers, look into this further and educate yourselves, because eventually this reality will be known to everyone. I truly believe that disclosure is coming. I can't tell you when, but I think it will come. And I think the public has an obligation to be ready for that.
Robert, once again, I want to thank you so much for coming on the show. It's been a great pleasure. Let our listeners know where they can get a copy of your book, Unidentified The UFO Phenomenon, and give them your website one more time.
Yeah, you can get it on Amazon.com or Barnes & Noble. I know it's there. And my website is spiralgalaxy.org. They would be interested in going to the section that has the witness testimony. Some of it's an audio tape. They can actually hear the witnesses, for example, my commander and the deputy commander of Echo Flight, and also documents supporting my case at my website.
Robert, a pleasure having you on the show. I wish you continued success, and I can't wait until the next time you come back and join us here on the X Zone.
Thank you, Rob. I really enjoyed it.
Thank you, sir. Have a nice evening. X Zone Nation, Robert Salas has been my guest this hour, the author of Unidentified The UFO Phenomenon, How World Governments Have Conspired to Conceal Humanity's Biggest Secret. www.spiralgalaxy.org. I'll be back on the other side of the news at 6.5 minutes past the top of the hour here in the X Zone from our broadcast center in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. Don't go away.